Episode 2. This is where things start getting emotional, and in my opinion, the general consensus of the plot's really starting to kick in with the life lessons of teachings and understanding what Frierien's kind of purpose in life is, per se, at this point in her life, with her age and her wisdom, and just the things that she can teach people around her without teaching people around her, if that makes any sense, and still at the same time be able to get tricked into doing things, but not in a bad way, but just from friendship, and the times that we have with people are so short. So with that being said and out of the way, let's talk about episode 2 now. So we start with our one and only little new, pretty important character, Frieren. And I know last time I was calling her Fern. Like I said, names, that's the one thing I'm not the best with. I can read katakana and hiragana pretty damn well. I can understand words and everything. Pronunciation, not my friend. It's not good. So, but we're Thern and Frieren in the woods, and they're discussing pretty much just how she can become better at using her magic, obviously, because she wants Frieren to teach her how to use her magic better. And pretty much she just tells her, the fact of she has the potential because she's really good at honing her actual magical skill, but to get that power to shoot that boulder across the way, it's gonna take some time, and in her opinion, years, so she doesn't really have time to teach her. And like I said last time in episode 1, obviously Heiter, his goal was to have Frieren teach her to be able to follow her on her journeys, So we get back to the house, and we kind of get this thing where obviously Frieren's going to decipher that book for him, because that's, the tome, because that's what he wants. So we go through this little time loop of, Frieren and a little bit at Heiter, but mostly Frieren and Fern, kind of just dilly-dallying along, doing things in life, and just you can kind of tell time over time how much time is passing by just the way the characters, obviously besides Frieren, are aging, and just kind of the hair growth and all the work she's putting into deciphering this actual manuscript. And while she's doing that, we finally get to the end of this little time loop thing, and we find out that it's been 4 years so far since this has all started. And obviously, Heiter is asking how Frieren's doing, and Frieren's it's, she's learned more than most people do in 10 years. She's doing really good. But at the same time, I don't think she's gonna, get to 100% by the time I'm done deciphering this. And while that's all being said and done, Heiter passes out and collapses on the floor, which we could kind of see coming. I mean, he was already in a state at this point where he was sick and not doing too well, because he's an old man, right? He's really old. It's been a long time. Frieren gets him to his bed, and he's laying there. He's immobile now, obviously. And even he, agrees on the point that he's just surprised up until this point that he could even be mobile. He's respecting life and everything along those lines. And while he's in bed over there, Frieren's going to go talk to Frieren about just the fact that he's past, he needed to stop putting your training on hold, because he's on his pretty much deathbed, and you should probably go visit him before he passes away. And Frieren does not want to give up, because he saved her life, and she feels that she owes him a big deal of not repentance, but just just that she owes the guy, for saving her life. And we get this nice flashback, obviously when she was way younger. Not that she's old or anything, but she was a pretty young kid. And you see this with Locket of her parents and her, and we get this kind of flashback, a slight bit, and not too many details about the whole subject, but she's pretty much getting ready to jump off this cliff, right? And before she can even jump off the cliff, Hightail stops her and tells her, look, it'd be a really big waste if you died, especially right now. And obviously, with a kid like that, she doesn't exactly understand, but like, he explains to her how, years ago, Himmel saved, tons of kids, and that was pretty much one of his best friends. And he just never abandoned anyone in need. And with regret and remorse at the fact that he lived and Himmel didn't, he wants to be to the same level as his old friend and to be able to save people like he saved people, So he ends up taking her in. And on top of that, we get a little bit more on the fact that, if you kill yourself, the precious memories that you have of everyone around you and all the events that you have are going to go to waste. And nobody's going to know about them. And you won't be able to pass them on to anybody. And they're just all going to go down the drain. And you get this more different perspective of mortality on that end of the spectrum, The fact that he knows that, look, I don't got much time to live. My best friend was amazing. He saved me. He saved tons of people. And now I need to save people and spread my positivity on before I pass away. And you don't need to pass away yet because you have so much left to give. And my goodness, it's just so great. But we get back to the modern time. And Frieren's over there, and she's explaining to Frieren that she doesn't want her, to have him regret saving her, even though we know for a fact he wouldn't regret it, right? Just because she, started learning magic because he saved her, she just assumes that he's, gonna regret saving her because she hasn't learned yet. But that's definitely not the case. However, we are definitely not there yet. And Frieren, tells her that, you remember everything I taught you, don't you? And, she says yes. And so she tells her to keep doing what she needs to do because deep down, we know Frieren knows that she can probably do it. And we get to see this nice little cast spell and cut away while, Frieren's over in the laboratory just reading her manuscripts, and she casts the spell. Don't get to see the results, but the spell has been cast. So, right after that scene right there, Frieren tosses the manuscript of the tome onto our boy Hightail, and obviously there's no spells for bringing back the dead or granting immortality. And even Hightail tells Frieren that if there's such a spell, the guy who wrote it would have cast it on himself. Like, obviously it makes no sense. And so Frieren tells him that she's doing really good and everything's going great. And we find out, Hightail's like, good. That's awesome, because now she won't get in your way and you have to take her with you. And obviously the motive of him the whole time to have her transcript or, transcribe this whole tome for like 5 years was the fact that if Frieren said she wouldn't train her, she'd stay here and help her with magic like he asked her to do while doing that for 5 years. And that's pretty much equivalent to training. So he tricks her into doing this, but for very good reason, right? Obviously, he knows he's passing away. He doesn't have much longer to live. And it's just so selfless and beautiful in that aspect. But he asks, Frieren to take her away and leave because, he hasn't got much time to live and he doesn't want her to experience losing anybody else. And obviously he, asks Frieren to look after her, and Frieren looks up, on top of him and makes him realize that, Frieren's been ready to say goodbye for some time now. We all know you're really sick and dying. And this is just really sad. And then we get to the other aspect of Frieren with her learning, like she said last time, learning more about mortals and humans per se. We get this fact, with her saying, that she wants her to make as many memories as she can before, he passes away, because that's all you really have is memories. And once people are gone, like the whole moral of this whole episode is, once people are gone, they're gone, and all you have is your memories left. And Frieren's starting to learn that about people and like their mortality and humanity, and it's just really coming to terms with all that stuff, and it's really awesome and really sad, but it's life, and she starts crying about it. And before we all know it, Heiter's, telling her she's a really awesome girl, how much, he doesn't really say this part, but just how much she's grown since they first met. And we kind of get delved into that a little more here in the upcoming scenes. But we get a flashback, to Himmel, and he's saving this kid, multiple kids to be technically exact, in this village, but that's really the flash we get. And it's very big theme, of how he's, freaking talking about, that's what, Himmel would have done. And so Frieren, pretty much says that maybe she'll do the same thing. So he's got this effect of affecting their whole group, and it's really awesome. But while she's outside kind of just thinking, and checking things out, we find the fact that Frieren actually cut a huge hole into that boulder, and it all worked out in the end. She's trained, she's taken care of now, things are gonna be all right. But sad to say, Heiter does die, and he gets buried, and those 2 bottles that Frieren brought to pour on his grave, she's able to pour on his grave, and obviously calls him a corrupt priest, because in reality that's all he ever really was. Good soul, but very corrupt. And we flash forward a little bit to them starting this journey out, and it's 26 years after the death of Himmel. And the last cut was 20 years. So, we've gone 6 more years. And we see the 2 of them kind of like picking up pumpkins from a pumpkin patch, and they get this nice reward from the guy, and it ends up being the spell that produces warm tea. Because like we've noticed, not necessarily the details, but that Frieren likes to collect spells of magic, because it's her hobby. And even Frieren's like, you really love magic, don't you? And she, Frieren likes to comment on the fact that, only somewhat, kind of like you do, which gets more explained to not necessarily detail, but you pick up on it later why. And so we get to this next village, and it's a florist, and she doesn't actually have spells, but she, she can help her with her knowledge and everything, and Frieren's fine with that. And what she wants from those 2 is to clean off this statue of Himmel in this village. And we come to find out that this girl is actually a person that got saved by Himmel way back in the day. She's a very older gal now, but she got saved by him in the village when this monster attacked. And of course, Frieren gets a flashback of, how the statue was made, and the fact that it took him 18 hours to pick a pose, and like the sculptor was about ready to kill the man. And she's telling this story, and the old lady's like, oh yeah, it's a nice story. And then she comes to realize that Frieren's actually part of his party. Obviously she looks young, but she's old. And she's, the old lady's talking about she wants flowers in the field next to the statue, and Frieren's talking about the fact that she has a spell that can do that. But then Frieren remembers the fact that he really loved these flowers called blue moon weeds. And apparently they used to be all over this area, but at this point in time, they are like nowhere to be found. And we get this little thing that's going to lead to something, but there's these 2 little rat field squirrels, or rat field, I can't remember what she calls them, but they're pretty much freaking squirrels, and they're eating these nuts, and for some reason Frieren has them. And Frieren wasn't mad about it, she just wanted to know what she had. And so they get to the woods and they let him go. And so Frieren wants to look for these, flowers, because she wants to do what's right for her old friend. But at the same time, Frieren knows that it's been decades, even though, Frieren says it's been a short amount of time, because for her it has, and for Fern, that's like, longer than a freaking life. So we get, that nice montage that the series likes to do so far of them searching for the flowers, and we get a bunch of really nice artistic, cute scenes, and a lot of lackluster but really ditzy scenes, and it's just absolutely adorable. But after these nice cuts come through, we find out that, they've been searching for like half a year now, and they still haven't found it yet. And, Frieren still wants to search for it because she's not going to give up. So Frieren goes back to the village, to the florist's house by herself this time, and the florist comments on how the fact that, she's never usually by herself, but she has concerns at the fact that the old lady being older than her even tells her, there's obviously a different perspective being sought here, because her being so old and more mature than both of them are, clearly she has a different view, and that maybe, you can confront her about this and talk about this, and maybe you'll get some progress out of it, and maybe some knowledge as well. And she also gives Frieren these seeds, and she leaves the building, which we find out that these seeds are pretty much not quite the flowers they've been looking for, but something rather close with medicinal purposes. That's why she hasn't really given them to her, and plus the fact they aren't exactly what she was looking for. However, she, Frieren explains her concerns to Frieren, and they kind of talk and have this nice heart-to-heart, and she realizes, that sure, she's not spending her own time, she's also spending Frieren's time, and that she'll end her search soon. And of course, Frieren's, talking about how many years is soon, and before anything could really happen and she can really freak out about this, one of those squirrels takes one of those seeds that she has, right? Because obviously there must be something related to the food they eat and everything. But so she tells her to quiet down, and they use this spell that can trace the footsteps of this animal, and they follow it, and they follow it, and they follow it, and before we can even reach over there, Frieren and Frieren have this conversation about how, she used to live more apathetically and not exactly do these kind of small things like this. And we get this cutscene of the old party in this field of flowers. And she's even calling it gross at the fact that her party members are enjoying these flowers, right? Like they're wasting time. And then she talks about how she met this idiot that complimented the spells that she had learned, and obviously that was Himmel. And Frieren calls it a silly reason, but we get this really cute back look from Frieren, and it's just absolutely adorable. But before she finishes the story, they get to the wall where the squirrels end up, and it's a blue petal. But they come to say that Frieren says that they bury their food in safe places away from enemies, and Fern asks if they're actually smarter than they are, but Frieren's like, yeah, not really, you just kind of bury their food and forget about it most of the time, kind of like real squirrels. But we get back to this flashback, and it shows that Frieren gets this crown of flowers on her head from Himmel, and he calls her beautiful, but not as beautiful as himself, obviously. And that, someday he wants to show Frieren these flowers that, the blue moon ones, in his home village, right? When they get back eventually. And obviously that sadly never happened, but Frieren gets to the top of this building, and it is just covered in these flowers, right? And she makes this nice quote of how the fact that it took longer than she would have liked, but she finally made it, and it is absolutely adorable. And once the flowers are found, Frieren gets to the, asking again why she's so passionate about magic, which is something that keeps coming up and coming up and coming up. And this is where I think Frieren, in my opinion, gets the realization, right? She gives her the example of how the fact that she never gave up on being a mage herself. And, she tries countering it back with, saying that she would have been happy learning any skill. But in reality, Frieren says, yeah, but you could have learned any skill, but you didn't, right? Magic was attracted to you. You were attracted to magic. And we get this nice flash of her with Haite in like in front of the the old house, and she's casting these like beautiful butterfly flower magics, which I'm assuming reminded him of obviously Frieren and all the good times that he used to have and the memories that he had, and just the fact that it made him happy, and if he was happy, she was happy. And you get this connection of magic through the people that you love, obviously, because before that, before Himmel was around, Frieren just used her magic to get shit done and move on. And obviously, before Frieren was found, she didn't necessarily know magic, but she wanted to just kind of do things and not really think about it. So you get these perspectives of things like that, and it's just absolutely heartwarming and just amazing, right? And that's the series, man. It's gonna be so freaking good. So we get back to reality, and she gets all the flowers planted around this because she had made the spell to be able to do that now that she had seen it. And right before they do that, she makes this nice floral like crown and puts it on top of Himmel's statue, reflecting that time when they were in the field, and he put the flowers on her head. And it's just this amount of symbolism, just deepness and growth is just absolutely astonishing. I love this series so freaking much. Oh my gosh. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments, how you're enjoying this series so far. Like I said, I'll be doing this 4-parter and 4 episodes here, so bear with me. They're all going to be coming up here. And yeah. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It means a lot to me. And if you're really feeling generous, hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to the channel. I upload, well, this fall 2023 season, I'm going to be doing daily uploads practically. I'm going to be covering 5 series this season. It's going to be crazy. But that's pretty much all I got for now. We'll see you in the next chapter here. And this has been Squids, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.